Okay, so tomorrow, Jurassic World Rebirth releases to everyone worldwide. But it's no secret that Universal have been putting out loads and loads of early screenings to the point where the whole movie has been leaked online on certain websites for almost a week now. Thankfully, no leaks actually went around the internet, and it seems as though not many people have actually seen that specific leak. But since we're so close to release now, I urge you guys to go and watch it in cinemas because it's definitely a cinema movie. You don't want to be sat here watching it in very poor 144p quality at home. You want to go to the cinemas, have a hot dog and enjoy it. But since it does release tomorrow and a lot of people have already seen the movie, that's why today we are posting my spoiler review for Jurassic World Rebirth. If you have clicked on this video by mistake, don't worry, my previous video on the channel is actually my non-spoiler review, so if you want a complete review of Jurassic World Rebirth with no spoilers, then go and check out that video, as this video is going to be talking about specific moments in the movie. But of course, since the movie does release tomorrow, you can always come back after watching the movie to see if you agree with any of my points that I make in today's video. But again, as another fair warning, my previous video was a more in-depth review about how I felt watching the movie and what the movie brought. In this video, it's more about the nitpicks, the good nitpicks and the bad nitpicks about specific moments throughout Jurassic World Rebirth. So it is kind of like a review, but not an in-depth review like I did yesterday. Hopefully that makes a lot of sense to you guys. But anyways, thank you so much for clicking on this video. Be sure to leave a like if you enjoy it at any given moment, and subscribe if you are new around here, so we post everything to do with the Jurassic franchise here on YouTube. But most importantly, finally, without any further ado, let's get into my spoiler review for Jurassic World Rebirth. So in my previous video, I've already given my overall thoughts and opinions about the movie with no spoilers. So for this one, we're not going to go into my overall view. We're going to go and basically do something very simple: the good of the movie and the bad of the movie. We're going to start with the good side of things because I like to be positive here on the channel, and it seems like people like to click off the video after 40% of it, so yeah. So let's get down to business. The opening sequence takes place in 2011 with the D-Rex. That opening sequence is actually really good. It's one of the best of the entire franchise. And honestly, the more time that I'll probably end up watching Jurassic World Rebirth and the more time that goes on, it will resonate with me in the same way that Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom's opening sequence resonated with me as well. As we know, despite whether Fallen Kingdom was a good movie or a bad movie, it's safe to say it has the best opening sequence of the whole entire Jurassic saga. And the new era saga for Jurassic, starting with Jurassic World Rebirth, kicked off very, very strong, and it's so thoroughly enjoyable. And one of my favourite moments was the Snickers bar, the wrapper that kind of got into that mechanical system and caused a malfunction with the door. Personally, that felt very Final Destination-like, and it's not really something I expected in a Jurassic movie, but in the sense that that was actually a good thing. It was a pleasant surprise. I was like, oh wow, that's really cool. It kind of goes to show how chaos theory, not the show, the actual chaos theory that Ian Malcolm was talking about in the original movies gets into play here. Something so little causes a big thing and stuff to happen in the future. That right there just sounds so cool, and when we finally got to see it on the big screen, it played out amazingly, and I really, really enjoyed that. We did have something like that in Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous Season 2. Right at the very end, I believe Kenji was pushing the buttons a bit too much, which then short-circuited the wires that was holding the cryo chamber for the Scorpius Rex, which then broke out in Season 3 of the show. Again, that's another instance of chaos theory playing out there. So to see the Snickers bar be the whole reason why the D-Rex gets out, something so small, but also something very, very cool. But then we move into modern time, or shall I say 2028, since this is 5 years after Jurassic World Dominion, which is November 2022, which means that it's either December 2027 or the 11 months of 2028. Either way, it's been a long time. And we get to see the Apatosaurus right at the start of the movie, and we even hear some dialogue on the radio discussing how the last Brachiosaurus in North America ended up dying off. Now the thing is, that dialogue does say about the Brachiosaurus. I really hope it's not talking about that Apatosaurus, because two different species. I think somebody creating a Jurassic movie should at least know the difference between those two. But either way, it just goes to show that yes, it's 2028, and yes, dinosaurs have migrated to the equatorial regions of the world, but at the same time, they are still, in small numbers, surviving amongst the people of this world as well. So this still leaves the door open for possible stories in the cities, in small villages, on farms, stuff like that, to happen for Jurassic. And when you look at like the background characters and the characters in the movie during that sequence, they just looked at this Apatosaurus like it was normal, like it was a standard occurring day. And they did that so well to the point where I'm like, wow, that feels really natural. It feels like we've actually got to that point finally after Jurassic World Dominion. It feels so cool to finally be here. And whilst Jurassic World Dominion didn't really showcase too much of dinosaurs on the mainland, I mean, sure, we did get the Malta sequence and also the Quetzalcoatlus opening sequence and all of that jazz. That wasn't what Jurassic World Dominion was laid out to do. It was laid out to place the bricks for the future paths of Jurassic. One of those being Jurassic World Chaos Theory. This Apatosaurus sequence and the way that everyone just acts like it's normal in Jurassic World Rebirth kind of connects the future of Jurassic World Chaos Theory. In Chaos Theory, we see dinosaurs living on the mainland and how people have learned to adapt with them. And whilst we don't really know exactly where Chaos Theory is going to go after Season 4, if it does go anywhere, we still need to wait to watch Season 4, the show and Rebirth still connect to some degree with the fact that the Apatosaurus is just laying there. These people are used to seeing dinosaurs in their mainland now, and if you want to see the action, Jurassic World Chaos Theory is certainly the one for you. But whilst we heard about the Brachiosaurus and we saw the Apatosaurus, this movie, Jurassic World Rebirth, did something that Jurassic World Dominion failed to do. Showcase brand new species not in their marketing. Jurassic World Dominion holds the records for the most amount of new species, most amount of dinosaur screen time, most amount of dinosaurs in one movie, but the issue with that, it had 33 species in the movie, yet we saw all of them in the marketing leading up to Jurassic World Dominion. For Jurassic World Rebirth, I was very concerned that was going to be the case, and then the Dunkleosteus appeared. Yes, a Dunkleosteus. Me and Dangerville sat next to each other, both quickly looked to the side at each other like, what? A Dunkleosteus? We were not expecting anything like that of the sort whatsoever, and it was so freaking cool, because this is 2028, this isn't 2025, just a few years after Dominion, this is plenty of years after Dominion, and the Dunkleosteus actually being a thing that allows for two things here. Either one, that creature has still been alive all of these years, or two, someone actually made a Dunkleosteus and they are actively hunting them in the waters. If you guys are unaware of how important this is, the Mosasaurus is the only aquatic species in the whole entire cinematic timeline, unless you want to technically class the Nothosaurus as well, but we had opportunities for Plesiosaurus, Elasmosaurus and Ichthyosaurus to also appear in the Jurassic World trilogy, but unfortunately none of those happened, so to finally see a prehistoric creature in the Dunkleosteus, man, did it sit very well with me. It's just a short scene, but I loved it so much. But it wasn't just that, we had other creatures like a Noranathus, which is a very small green thing. It didn't really showcase or do that much, but that's what I kind of liked. There were other creatures, there was like this weird snake serpent in the water. I think there's maybe 2 or 3 other creatures that I completely forgot were in the movie, but I feel as though there were more species that we didn't know were going to be in Rebirth that actually were in Rebirth, but it's the way that they weren't shown with importance, if that makes sense. Like, I remember the Pteranodon appearing in Rebirth, but it was literally in the background for one scene, and it wasn't even a long scene. That was it. Personally, I really like it when they do stuff like that. They don't have to showcase the dinosaurs in all of their importance. They can have background dinosaurs like we have background characters. It felt like they were there, actually existing, and they weren't so forced like Jurassic World Dominion had. You guys already know how much I enjoy Jurassic World Dominion, but it's certainly not the most perfect movie out there. One of those being how forced the dinosaurs felt being in that movie. Jurassic World Rebirth, with all of these background dinosaurs and creatures, made it look really good and feel really good. But moving on now to some more morbid talk, the deaths of the movie were actually really cool. There are some deaths in that movie that I feel as though definitely had a little bit more potential for them, but mostly all of them were actually enjoyable to watch. Bobby Atwater's, Nina's, Bashir Sylvain's made me feel the most uncomfortable actually, because it's like you see him alive, they cut to the shot of the other 2 people trying to bring him up, and then you see Leclerc is pretty much in the mouth of the Quetzalcoatlus. That was very disturbing actually, and he was already dead. It was like the Quetzal was trying to balance him in the mouth to then swallow him. Something like that, just, I didn't even imagine in my head. Like, yes, Bobby Atwater's, I kind of knew how it would go, and it did make me feel a little bit uncomfortable. But then we saw Leclerc's death scene. Wow. Seeing him kind of like alive but half dead in the mouth of the Quetz. Man, I can't even express my words for how uncomfortable I felt. But without a doubt, Martin Krebs' death was the best one. It was so The Lost World coded. It felt like Eddie Carr's death scene from Jurassic Park: The Lost World. And I felt like that was a very satisfying death for his character, especially as you see him slowly spiral throughout the movie. Personally, I really enjoyed it. And talking a little bit more about the D-Rex, I do have some notes here saying that the D-Rex barely shows up, But that was the awesome part. It's very strange to say, but it felt like it was just there being a dinosaur despite its flaws. Like, it wasn't really focused on. Sure, it was focused on in the marketing and everybody wanted to know what it was, but then Jurassic World Rebirth comes around, they don't really talk about the D-Rex all that much, and then it just kind of appears in the last third act. But there's something about that I kind of liked. It wasn't like, this is the big bad dinosaur, you're going to see it often and often and often, and then it's going to return at the end and then it's going to die off. It was just kind of there, enjoyable, and it had some really good scenes. Something about it not appearing too much was actually more enjoyable than seeing it forced down my throat every 5 minutes. But yeah, so all of that was thoroughly enjoyable, and I did mention this last point in my previous review, but the characters felt so natural and so well to be together in this movie. The chemistry was off the charts. And one thing I really liked was the little emotional moments between Zora and Duncan. It was nice not to see them actually get together, but instead have a very formal but fun platonic relationship. Like, all of these relationships in this franchise, just, I don't know, they feel very forced or toxic, and that was something I really didn't like. There's only one relationship I pretty much do like in the whole franchise, and that's Ben and Gia from Jurassic World Chaos Theory. They feel natural, they don't feel toxic like Owen Grady or Ellie Sattler or the other relationships in the franchise, so I was kind of worried that once we got to see Zora and we hear things about a triangle between Henry, Zora and Duncan, I was worried there would be some kind of love there, but then we learned that actually there's a lot more love in their personal lives than to just be with them, if that makes sense. So to see them have a platonic, friendly relationship was thoroughly enjoyable. And then the ending of Jurassic World Rebirth. Man, it ended in the same way that Jurassic Park did. And it did feel kind of rushed, kind of underwhelming, but then when I sat there and I thought about it, it felt very poetic at the same time. But I've just realised how long I've been rambling on for. I like to talk a lot, it seems like, so we're going to move on swiftly to the bad parts of the movie so I can finally get some things off my chest. So let's talk about the retcons. The biggest retcon of the movie, in my personal opinion, is saying that Mosasaurus in Jurassic World Rebirth is the same Mosasaurus from Jurassic World's trilogy. They look nothing alike. One of them is so much smaller than the other, and that felt very bad in my books. When we heard Martin talk about the fact that InGen lost track of it after it broke out in Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom's prologue, that's when I sat there and I looked at Alistair, and Alistair looked at me, and we were like, that's not right. Why did they say that? That's the same one from Jurassic World? It clearly isn't. So to retcon that whole thing when the Jurassic World Mosasaurus is incredibly loved by fans was such an odd choice to do. This was a great opportunity to just showcase, look, somebody else made a Mosasaurus that's almost as large as Jurassic World and is actually more paleo accurate. I feel as though that would have been a lot better to do than just to retcon this Mosasaurus that's been alive since 2004. Or actually, I think it was 2007. But either way, it just didn't really sit right with me. And I did mention there were some better opportunities there in the movie, one of which was the fact that we saw the Quetzalcoatlus fossil in the museum match the exact same design that we see later in the movie. As we know, it's already been established in the Jurassic franchise that Biosyn's Quetzalcoatlus in Jurassic World Dominion is paleo-accurate in this universe. So to see another specimen of Quetzalcoatlus to look like the one that they're coincidentally going to see on Ile Saint-Hubert later in the movie, this was a really good opportunity for them to showcase the Biosyn Quetzalcoatlus, and then later in the movie, have Henry Loomis be like, what? This Quetzalcoatlus looks different. Why does it look different? Because he's a paleontologist. Something like that would have been so cool to see a paleontologist actually make a very important discovery. I mean, sure, in our world at least, we have two versions of the Quetzalcoatlus, so it could literally just be explained like that, but this was a better opportunity to showcase the arguably better looking Biosyn Quetz as the fossil, and then Henry Loomis discovering a new Quetzalcoatlus later down the line. I feel as though that was a better opportunity. And I've also got a note here saying for some reason the Jurassic World Rebirth Spinosaurus was actually shown on a screen in the background in the museum, even though they mentioned that nobody's allowed to go near this island and nobody has really seen these dinosaurs. I have to go back and check, that's based off what Dangerville told me, but at the same time I feel as though I saw some duckbills on there, so I think they were actually Ouranosaurus instead. We're going to have to watch the movie again for that specifically, but it's just a little continuity error. One thing also that I have noted here is the cost of the creature. The clip with this quote actually released just a few days ago and basically said that these hybrid experiments were $76 million. The Indominus Rex cost $26 million, and the whole point why Masrani didn't want to just kill off the Indominus Rex was the fact that it cost $26 million. Like, why would he be so concerned about killing off the Indominus Rex, which is more arguably the perfected hybrid dinosaur, than killing off a failed creature that also costs a lot more? I don't know, something like that just doesn't really sit too right with me, to be honest. But anyways, moving on from the retcons, we'll get into that for another video later down the line. The death scenes, I did say they were pretty cool, but at the same time I've got noted here saying that they felt just way too quick. I feel as though Bobby and Nina died off way too early in the movie. Maybe kill off one of them, maybe kill off Nina, because I felt as though Bobby Atwater had a lot more to his character. He's probably the most likable character in the whole movie as well, personally my favourite, and I felt as though he had a lot more going for him if he was to appear later in the movie. Maybe even a better sacrifice movement or something like that. I feel like Bobby should not have died so soon. Like, for example, this is what we're about to talk about as well, the Mutodon. Like, I feel as though the Mutodon didn't really do anything besides kill a Velociraptor and scare a few people. Maybe having Bobby survive later into the movie, we would have seen him face off with the Mutodon, and then the Mutodon outsmarting Bobby, who's clearly intelligent in this field. That would have been a lot better of a choice to make for his character to die off in. But yeah, the Mutodon I was actually more excited for than the D-Rex, and unfortunately, I didn't really feel anything for the Mutodon. Like, the D-Rex was cool, it was big, it was massive, you're like, whoa, this is cool. The Mutodon, not so much, and I think that's because of the lack of horror. It just felt like it was wasted potential, it could have done a lot better in the movie. I did mention this in my previous review, saying that it just felt too easy for them to get the DNA sequences as well. Like, we knew it was the Mosasaurus, then the Titanosaurus, which was relatively easy because, understandably so, it's quite easy to get DNA from them, especially with the tech that they were using. And then you got the Quetzalcoatlus. I mean, sure, there were deaths throughout these sequences, but it still just felt a bit too easy to get them. It was kind of like a, get in, we got the DNA samples, now what? Oh, we've been betrayed, let's try and get off the island. It was very simplistic, a bit too simplistic for my liking for Jurassic. Talk of which, the Spinosauruses. They were heavily used in the marketing, people were so excited for the Spinosaurus, and I just felt they were very underused. Like, we got to see one of them belly walk into the water, and that was the only time we saw the Spinosaurus on land. Yeah, I know, I get it, okay? These Spinosauruses can swim. Cool, I think we've established that for the last 10 years now. But I feel as though it would have been a lot better to see them come onto land and show that they are still a threat. The Spinosaurus just kind of swam away after they crashed onto the land, and I feel as though, you know, that would have been a great moment for them to just sit there and be like, okay, we've got away from them, and then we see the Spinosaurus emerge and start walking on the land, and then they have to get away from them. That would have been so much better because it would have shown that these creatures aren't just aquatic but also can walk on land. I know most people will probably know that, but seeing it on screen would have definitely been a better option. Overall, this movie, it was fun, but it definitely had a lot more potential going for it. Personally speaking, I feel as though this is the movie that you have to watch at least 2 or 3 times to truly understand it, similar to how Jurassic World Dominion is the same, although Dominion takes a lot more to watch. But I feel as though it's definitely a movie that will be aided with sequels to come. Like, I can personally see it. In 6 years' time, we'll be looking back at Jurassic World Rebirth, and we'll be thinking, yeah, that movie was really good. It was a great start to these next 2 movies. Something like that is definitely going to happen for this movie. Like, for example, we didn't learn much about Parker Genix. Mr. Parker was mentioned once throughout the movie, and we barely got to see or know anything about the mutants as well. So hopefully that will be the whole thing that will set up the sequel to Jurassic World Rebirth. So yeah, those were my personal enjoyment moments and also my issues with Jurassic World Rebirth. I know some people are going to have different enjoyment moments, and I know some people are going to have different issues with the movie, but that's just personally how I felt as a super fan for the franchise. I've studied this franchise a lot, so seeing things like the Dunkleosteus randomly be added was so cool, but also seeing things with the Mosasaurus being retconned was definitely heartbreaking. So there's a whole mix of emotions for Jurassic World Rebirth. It's very difficult to come to a solid conclusion, but I would say it's more in between the 6 to the 7 out of 10 range for the franchise. And personally, I think that's really good considering the issues that it did have. I feel as though it's a very solid ranking. But I'm interested to know what you guys think, so head on down to the comments and let me know your thoughts of Jurassic World Rebirth. Hopefully you haven't been spoiled by this video. I did give you a fair amount of warning, but please let me know what you thought of the movie, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you are new around here. But most importantly, make sure you're all staying safe out there, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye.